there's a problem in the tiny corner of the world. It's called racing games. So basically everything's fine, except children are hungry for tunes. They could be spending money on new e-waste or their overpriced sim brick, but instead they're getting scammed buying tunes, watching tuning guides, and downloading tuning apps. So what are they about? In short, some racing games allow you to fine-tune your car. This is different from upgrades or customization. You're not adding or removing anything from the car when tuning. You simply adjust it the way it is, changing tire pressure, lowering suspension, gear ratios, and stuff like that. You know what you're doing, you can make the car go faster than it is normally capable of on the default setup. So what's the problem? Well, nobody knows how to tune. Everyone in every racing game that features a remotely complex tuning system has the same problem. You either don't know how to tune, or you think you know how to tune, but in reality, you're making the car slower. If you're one of the few no-lifes who spends thousands of hours in a video game, however, you can gain a slight edge over everyone else. And I used to be one of those no-lifes. Well, I still am. Point is, everyone is seeking this secret tuning knowledge, but no one wants to spend hundreds of hours achieving it, and that leads us to the rabbit hole of rampant misinformation and scams. I think this is best explained if I tell you a story along the way, which could be similar to yours at the beginning. It mainly focuses on Horza, but some aspects apply to other games as well. It starts when I wanted to go faster, obviously, and one of the many ways to achieve that in FH4 ranked races was with a better tune. Fortunately, this game has a tuning browser that allows anyone to share tunes publicly and download them, but the public tunes weren't cutting it. I wanted to know more about tuning in general. So I look up guides online and come across one with over 1 million views. I follow it and try to apply it to the meta cars I was already using, but it wasn't working and actually made my car slower. Maybe I'm doing something wrong though. I totally don't pirate the tuning app that straight up gives me tuning values, but once again, my tunes end up being slower than the previous one I already had. So hey, why not take a look at the downloaded tunes and learn from those? For some fucking stupid reason that no one knows about to this date, however, you cannot adjust the downloaded tune in Horza. Doesn't matter if you just don't like the rims or change one setting, it comes as is. Public tune my ass. There was literally no accurate publicly available information regarding FH4 tuning at this point. I came up with methods to reverse engineer tunes and learn more about the game in the process. Those were actually some of the first videos on my channel. Well, unlocking tunes gave me a head start, but it wasn't enough, and that became especially true when it came to FH5, where people had to learn new tuning strats and experiment more. FH5 comes out, the launch is a disaster, but also huge, which means people are looking for meta stuff. The person who made that FH4 tuning guide video also makes one for FH5. But wait a fucking minute, the video was released on the game's early access launch date. How the hell is that possible? Well, if you watch tuning guides for multiple racing games, you're gonna realize they're all pretty similar. And the reason is simple. These are all the same generic real-life tuning guides, repackaged for specific games. Most racing games use similar physics-based formulas. These videos would work nicely if the game behaved just like real life, but as you can guess, it doesn't. Nice lobby. Real road cars are lowered and stiffened. In FH, it's the opposite. They're raised and softened because it makes them faster. Even the so-called racing sims are full of inaccuracies. The point is, racing games are far from achieving perfect physics. If something works in real life, doesn't mean it's necessarily going to work in a video game, no matter how realistic it is considered to be. But who cares? You can make a lowball estimate of $4,000 from those 2+ million misled viewers. These videos are simply clickbait misinformation. You don't even have to be some tuning god to know that. These videos generally being released less than a week after the game's launch should say more than enough. They're here to simply profit off the game's initial popularity and nothing else. And you can't make the review copy excuse. It takes a lot longer than 2 weeks and one person to figure out the tuning meta in FH. The worst part is that the majority aren't going to know that these videos are over 70% horseshit. Percentage depends on the game's physics, so even the parts that are true is by chance. People don't know the tunes they make from these videos are shit, because they don't know how to compare it against good tunes. Many people believe that tunes are supposed to be personalized for each driver and just feel good to drive. But that's incredibly misleading, to say the least. The tune made for racing is supposed to be both fast and consistent. It is true that you can often trade stability for pace, better suit certain driving styles, that's a separate topic, but bad tunes aren't like that. Tuning settings are supposed to come with trade-offs, but it doesn't always play out like that. Sometimes maxing out a slider gives you free grip with negligible downsides. Bad tunes are the ones that don't max out the slider. Another common example that some people mistake understeer for grip. They see that their car doesn't slide out, feels stable and easy to drive, and think it must be better. And in reality, they're not taking full advantage of their car and are much slower in lap times. A slow, understeery car is good to drive for some people, but it's slow. Lap times and how consistently you can pull them off are all that matter. Now someone might say that a low-skilled player is going to be faster with the understeery car, but that's also not true. Come back to this later. But it's not just the social media slop kings. In the case of Forza, some people end up becoming tuning celebrities. And they do that by throwing together a lazy tune as soon as a car is released and sharing them. They're the first, their tune shows up first, the algorithm promotes high download tunes, and the cycle continues. That sounds oddly familiar. Made a video showcasing why you shouldn't trust popular tuners. My channel was kicked off from these types of Forza guides and testings in general. Some of these tunes were literally slower than the game's stock tune. That's how bad they can get. I also had a series where I and other people tested the most popular and most recent tunes from these tuning celebrities. Some of them turned out to be complete garbage, especially the old ones. Now someone might say, of course an old tune is gonna be garbage. The game was just released and nobody knew how to tune. Well, in that case, don't share a tune when you know it's gonna be shit. A tune being old doesn't excuse it from being lazy garbage, made with the sole purpose of farming downloads and in-game money. There are more things you can rightfully criticize my tune review series for, but tunes being old isn't one of them. I also got some flack for unlocking and stealing tunes, as I later discovered that you didn't need to reverse engineer to unlock tunes. Exploit existed, but I didn't care at the end. Don't like gatekeeping. Unlocking tunes was only one part. Not all tuning stats from FH4 carried over. There were a lot of cars that no one had a good tune for. Towards the end of my Forga journey, I also covered the biggest offender in regards to tuning. It was about a paid mobile app that made tunes for you, and of course it's a complete scam. The tunes it makes are horrible in every way, sometimes even slower than the stock tune. The app made over $50,000 in revenue, and that was when I made a video, and the app had 10k plus downloads. Today, it has over 50,000, and still over 4-star rating. So long as a 100k plus view video exposing it didn't have any impact. Got the advert for the app before this video, same comment. And here I was, wondering why I was putting so much effort into the game when slop kings and scam apps were making dozens of times more money than me with less effort. The game bans and a bullshit Forza official video were the final straw for me. This video features 3 people, the YouTube guy, a known joke of a tuner who even promotes the scam app, and someone who literally has no involvement in tuning. This fucking video is everything wrong with tuning. The devs not giving a shit, tuning apps and sloppers taking advantage, and clueless people acting knowledgeable. And the thing I used to give this guy credit, yeah, mistakes were made. Now is this gonna come off as drama? I wouldn't care. I know I'm hated as a person, but that shouldn't get in the way of facts, and things are about to get more heated anyway. Not in FH though. To be fair, even though over 90% of my original guide still holds up, glossed over a lot of aspects. It wasn't as detailed, and way too generalized. I was working on an even more detailed guide that I ended up cancelling and releasing the script. Despite it being in the draft stage, it still remains the most detailed and accurate meta tuning guide for FH5. That's not to say it's incredibly detailed or fully accurate, just that nobody else bothers to dive deep. That's not an advertisement. FH5 is irrelevant now, never make a single penny from it, and I've long left Forga to profit off the attention it gets. I'm not planning to come back to FH6 after this video. But does it even matter when the guide is overshadowed by low effort spam? Does it matter when the majority aren't going to tell the good tune from the bad one? At this point, I feel like that even if my guides were complete bullshit, I would have still gotten away with it. Glad that some people found it useful, but they were a minority compared to the ones who were misled. The second to last episode of Tune Review, I took every tune from the comment section and gave them all a go. There were over 50 of them, I couldn't go deep, but I did take a look at the parts, and did a couple of laps in each, and that was more than telling. The majority shared complete garbage, couldn't excuse them with different track selection, or driving style, or skill. They were simply bad. The worst part is that they themselves thought it was good. Luckily they put effort into them. And here I was, thinking that a more detailed guide is gonna completely solve that. I had nearly 1,000 tunes shared in FH5, and all of them were gone after I got banned for using mods to access unreleased cars. I did that so I could actually test the cars and have a proper tune ready for when they officially released. Maybe I was too obsessed with getting ahead of scam tuners, and me writing this indicates that I still am. Part of me still wishes it could go back and update tunes. Now what about other no-lives like me? Surely there are other top players willing to share their tuning methods? Well, not exactly. First of all, it's not possible to make a living wage out of mastering a niche in a niche genre of video games. If anything, top players have even less reasons to share information with you, because many games have money tournaments. Why would you share your secrets and let your opponents get ahead? Even when they share a tune, they would sometimes sabotage it first. They weren't bad tunes, or like slightly nerfed on purpose. The sliders that should be maxed out, those were slightly below max on those tunes. They never went public with this, wasn't too much controversy already. This is assuming that these people know how to tune, because some of the top players don't. They mainly focus on the driving. Their tune is either made by someone else, or is hastily put together using general information that is sometimes incorrect. In FS4, for example, minimum ride height was believed to be the meta for the longest time, but max ride height was actually better. Many times I felt like I was beating these players by simply out-tuning them. When it came to this game at least, only people dumb enough to share their tuning discoveries were me and Rock LXD. Rock literally lost tournaments because other players used Rock's own tune to beat him. We're talking about Horza. We don't get many official money tournaments. I also got unlucky, but at least half the grid was running his tunes in off-road events. Hopefully now that I shared my perspective, you now understand why no one knows how to tune in racing games, at least on a deep level. The majority of sources are either unreliable or scam. And why wouldn't they be? It takes less effort, it's more profitable, and the majority won't realize they got ripped off. If anything, they'll praise you for it. It's the perfect scam. Just look at the comment section on these tuning guides. It's too early to fully judge the FS6 videos yet, but FS5 ones are easily verifiable. Should have done a tune review, comparing the tunes made using my guide and other guides. My guide is far from perfect, but it'll be way faster every time, no matter the skill level. We saw this in the Forza tune app video. A meta tune is generally harder to drive than a so-called realistic tune, but it didn't matter. Everyone performed better on the meta tune. There's also time attack leaderboards. They're not definitive proof, they give you a general idea. Who was topping the leaderboards? I was, at the time, the people who used tunes that followed the methods in my guide. That guy, on the other hand, doesn't have any impressive times, and no top player takes his guide seriously. I know someone is gonna flex their shit times, so let's clear that up as well. Dominating online lobbies full of noobs doesn't mean you're a god. Getting a top 1%, a top 100 time, doesn't mean your tune is good. I made a video about this as well. And guess who else did too? The best way to get an idea is to see how many seconds you're off the world record time, assuming it's an active leaderboard. When there's a fake realism crowd, someone's gonna say, but I want my tunes to be realistic. Like, are you here to go fast? Or are you here to intentionally make the car worse, just so that you think it's more realistic? I'd say the say to Simbros as well, but you're playing Horse of Horizon. Even if a realistic tune was achievable, you'd have no way of knowing it. As an example, Forza's F40 is one of the easier cars to handle for a rear-wheel drive, when in real life it's the opposite. So in this case, an oversteering meta tune is not only faster, it's closer to being realistic as well. So in short, the only way you can achieve realism in a video game is if you lie to yourself. So, what's the solution to all this? Well, I can't think of any that's reasonable. Documentation of the game's vehicle dynamics, that would greatly help. I'd rather be able to outright see how the game actually works underneath, instead of having to speculate and approximate based on limited testing methods. But it won't happen, because trade secrets. And what about hiring people who actively playtest the game so they can come up with better default tunes and give us better info? Nope, they even charge cocks for the privilege to beta test nowadays. And this is all made worse if the game's physics are regularly updated. They gave some comp players early access to FS6, and what did they do? Spam share tunes to farm downloads on the launch day, calling them world record tunes, when only about 1,000 people had access to the game. AI advancements is the only way I see this playing out. If you can't be bothered to spend hundreds of hours experimenting in a video game, then I'd say you should just give up. Racing games have other aspects you can enjoy without spending much time in. Maybe focus on those instead. I know it's not just vibe driving. Since this is going to be a Horza video, I know there's going to be a lot of calm people bringing up my past controversies. I never fully addressed these, because these controversies never made their way outside of YouTube comment replies and Discord copypastas. I think you can guess why. Lack of evidence.